What's good with the YouTube Convicts Perspective? It's your boy Flacco coming live and direct, smashing through, slide through, as always, with my co-host, Big Senor Rojo. And as always, we're coming through with that little bit of energy, man. What's cracking, YouTube? So as you guys already know, man, we've had a very busy week, man, with all these NF indictments, Operation Quiet Storm, sub-indictments, including the Sajo Grande, Palmas, as well as Operation Black Hawk. All this has occurred within the week, so we thought it would be important to discuss, right? We already know how these indictments happen. The good Rojo's laughing at me. We already know how these indictments occur. We always, the process and this investigation basically started about 8 years ago and got really strong about 5 years ago. So now we're going to get into something that's going to be a little bit controversial. And let me remind you, this is all just a perspective, and this perspective comes from past experiences, seeing indictments, seeing how the stages that everything goes through, and the different layers and tiers every time a federal indictment comes, and also going through Operation Black Widow, which has led everything into its current state today. So without further ado, I'm gonna let Rojo start this off, man, as we dive into Operation Quiet Storm and the aftermath expectations of what we think is gonna happen.
All right, so you guys all know what's been transpiring over the last, I don't know, I'm gonna say since the start of Black Widow, ever since the original group of leadership was moved from Pelican Bay to Santa Rita. That's where this whole thing started. It may not have came to the point it is now, when them indictments came down, but that's what started all this. Two different sides, everything. That indictment caused this. And that's what the feds intended to do. You know what I mean? That, it was collateral damage, and they're smart enough to see that what was going to happen, So rewind Black Widow. Everybody goes to Rita, they take it to trial, take their deals, go to the federal system. State leadership takes over as per the Constitution at the time. It's supposed to. The power was supposed to always be in Pelican Bay. Once you left Pelican Bay, you lost your power as an individual or collectively as a group. And that wasn't supposed to change. So things move forward as it's supposed to. People establish in the feds, they get their stuff down, they get let out of these supermaxes. There's a rift. They fight over territory. They fight over who's the real chain of command. They fight over this and that. Every single issue that comes up, one side has one perspective, one side has another. There's always going to be things that they agree on, of course. But, it started a lot of raft, then there was a lot of back and forth threats, so to speak, a little bit of disrespect, a little bit of, tit for tat arguments. Let's go to the current state. Go ahead, Flox.
I'm gonna ask you a question, being the Mr. Constitutionist, right? So, we're looking at Operation Black Widow the same way as Operation Quiet Storm, okay? During Operation Black Widow, you had the 3 generals, right? Mm-hmm. And there was 3 remaining captains left in the Bay. All the other captains were either indicted on Operation Black Widow, they flipped, which was at that time I think Rock flipped, Coneo was stripped, Coneo from Sakura, right? And then you were left over with DC, Boxer from Selma, and Wedo from Los Baños. Wedo from Los Baños and both Boxers from Selma ended up flipping. You were left with 1 captain. So now, what I'm trying to get at, right, is the same kind of situation almost happened with this, where you had 3 generals indicted, 4 people from the voted in general council. Now, when Operation Black Widow happened, you were left with really no Cat 3s up there in the Bay at that time, right? No one with voting power. So what are you supposed to do with the Constitution when you come into a situation like Operation Black Widow, where everybody was indicted, basically except for 3 people, and quickly 3 of those 2 people, only DC was left at the helm as the #1 captain. So you see where I'm going at was, yeah. There was no one to be voted into these general positions of power or even being ascended to captain positions. So I kind of understand how when Stork got sent there to do his state time before he went to the feds, or I forgot however it worked. Then how Chuco and all them got in his ears, and Puppet and all them, and with the incommunicado situation at that time, because they were all in ADX, there was no communication. So, I think this is like Black Bob Part 2 is what happened during Operation Black Widow. You know what I'm saying? They just stripped everything down and restructured it. So now you have Part 2 happening again. where the generals have been indicted by the state. You know what I mean? The general counsel. I don't know if they're going by the caste system in the state or whatnot, because I know the feds has a graded time situation. So now it's almost like the same thing that happened in Operation Black Widow is the same thing that happened in Operation Quiet Storm. I don't know how many people of high rank, right, with the right graded time, or if you want to go by caste system. I don't know how the state's working, if they're in opposition as far as the feds, or if they've all taken over this graded time. But it's going to be kind of hard when the leftover people up there in the state, there's only a few people who have any time in there. The Lucas, Sleepers, I think Mondo Quinn. I mean, you're hearing rumors about him as well. Maybe a few other people up there. All the other ones are basically new recruits. So that's my whole concern was, at least when you had Operation Black Widow, you still had people that were left over that had some time, that had been around in the mix. This time it's basically all the ones that had any type of time, but a select few, man, they're just castaways. They're the leftovers. So, I mean, I know I'm rambling on, but I would have to think that the one thing that that every C that I've talked to, right, that's now no longer active, but that was there during this transition with the feds and state, they said that the feds thought they were prepared during Operation Black Widow. They were not. So I'm just wondering if these state individuals, right, leadership, had a contingency plan for when this took place.
What's supposed to happen? The question you posed at the beginning of your spiel just now, as far as what's supposed to happen when the whole governing body gets taken, they did a real number on the governing body on Black Widow. You know, just like this, but Black Widow in specific, because what's supposed to happen, there's supposed to be 1 through 10 captains, with the lowest number being the highest rank. Captain 1, Captain 2, Captain 3, so on. 1, 2, and 3 would automatically fill the mesa positions for a temporary thing until the OGB can be reestablished and a vote can be cast. Okay. Same goes for lieutenants, 1 through 10. When the captains, okay, so it'll say 5 captains have to move up, right? You got 1, 2, and 3 becoming the mesa temporarily, right? So that would leave 3 holes in the captains. Well, the lieutenants, cat 2s, whatever you want to call them, are also 1 through 10. So 1, 2, and 3 lieutenants would automatically be upgraded to captain status to the OGB originally during my time was the mesa and the captains 1 through 10. It wasn't really so much the voted in process, or it wasn't really like that. So to speak, it was, because to be a captain, to be a Cat 3 captain, you have to be approved. So yeah, it's kind of like a diplomatic thing. But the OGB would be general of advocate general, general of streets, general of prisons, and then captains 1 through 10 for a total of 13 individuals.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how it's designed to run. Due to circumstances that are necessarily beyond the organization's control, that's not always possible. You know, but it's supposed to play off that general hierarchy. So you'd have your lieutenants move up to captains. Everything, if 3 people leave, the same day it should be flowing smooth again. You know what I mean? The first 3 captains, and actually about the first 5 captains, should always be well versed in the duties of each aspect of being a general, each general's office. They don't have no contingency plans.
Yeah,
they have lightweight ones, bro, but it's gonna be a mess, bro, just like it was last time.
Yeah, I heard personally that they tried to assert those positions when they were there, and that they got backlash from it the first time, and that's because they were all placed in Santa Rita. And I know at that time, all the brass leadership at that time, all the remaining captains and generals that were there in Rita, their whole thing was, we're not incommunicado. We got more access to the streets from here. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, they started sending messages to the streets. They started having people come up and visit them. They started establishing codes. They started sending private investigators up to the bay to let the people up there know, like, look, we're still in power. They did all kinds of stuff, man. So I wonder now, this is a little bit different because they're not being held in county jails. They're being held in federal facilities. You know what I'm saying? And the pipeline of communications, I don't know how it's going to circulate, man. I mean, it's going to have to be the same way it was before, where you're going to have those visitors, right? Come in, take the notes, take the directives. But you already know they're going to be on top of that. The feds are going to be on top of that, man. They're going to have some type of special visiting restrictions. This isn't prison where they have to have immediately access. I mean, this isn't mainline population where you have to have immediately contact. They're going to be restricted to their visits, probably through a glass, maybe even through a video.
No
You
doubt.
know what I'm saying? And if they do it through a video, I guarantee you they're going to be recording every visiting. So if you try to do a little note like this, you know what I mean? You can't do that no more. Because before, that's how it was going on in Santa Rita. I know, because we took people up there to go visit. We took Goose's wife up there to visit. We sent females up there. Even homeboys that were like not validated. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to mention their names, but I've mentioned before in previous spills, they would go up to visit Skip and Goose. And they would take a pen and paper, and these dudes would just put the wheel up to the window. That's how the directions were being taken out.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to have that kind of access this time. You know what I mean? And they got to worry about that their codes have already been broke. You know what I'm saying? Their communications, I mean, they've been communicating basically through, we already know, man. They've been communicating straight through them phones. You know what I mean? Through them encrypted emails and all that. Man, that's the simplest communication that they have. All that stuff's been breached already. You know what I'm saying? They've been knowing about that for a minute. So what's to happen now? That's the question. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The feds learned from Black Widow not to house them people in Santa Rita with unlimited access to phones and visits. You know, Santa Rita is not going to change their jailing schedule because somebody's facing charges for these kind of charges. You're still going to get your phone calls. You're still going to get your visits or anything. And the feds and the BOP, man, them dudes are going to be slammed, bro. They're not going to have no action at talking about nothing.
Yeah, because I've never heard of people being federally indicted like this and being housed in a federal prison.
Me neither.
I'm sure it's happening, guys. You know what I mean? But not to this magnitude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they
So
had to work out some special kind of arrangement between the state and the feds, and a judge might even have had to approve that because they're not convicted, so they shouldn't be being housed there. So they made some kind of special exemption or found some kind of statute to allow it to take place, you know?
See, not all the names have been listed either in these indictments. You know what I'm saying? So we don't know. I mean, there's certain people who, you know, have been snatched up on the streets that no one even knows where they're at.
I'll tell you what, they say there's 55. There's more. There's a bunch, because I'm gonna tell you why. There's a bunch of people that they can't find. You know, like let's take Grande and Palmas, for example. They didn't get everybody they wanted to that one day that they rolled in there. It's just not possible. A couple people got away. You know, so they're gonna put out these numbers. There's double that. There's at least 30 more, bro. And that's without the new round of indictments when people start, hey.
Okay, I heard this though too, brother. I heard that they got the one that was running the San Jose region. I heard that they got his first and his second got snatched up already out there. And they were from either Palmas or San Grande.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so they've already been snatched up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're looking for more as we speak.
You know, and they're gonna, and the thing is they're gonna house people in different locations. They did it during Operation Black Widow. They had people in San Jose, they had people in out there in the valley. They had people all the way out there in these small counties like Butte County and Cholmondeley County, like where Jamestown's at, man, that were hidden.
I didn't even know that.
Well, they were hiding people out that were witnesses. You know
Nah, that makes sense though. Yeah.
You know, and you got to remember during Operation Black Widow, those that have already been sentenced on previous cases, man, like Dreamer Escamilla, all these other cats, right, that were already doing life, man. Suave, all these other cats, man, you got to include in their indictment as well, as far as the sub-indictments, man. A lot of people flipped. So this whole notion that just because someone's doing life, that they won't tell or they won't flip and agree, nah, that's not true, brother. I've seen it through Operation Black Widow. Some people just get tired of that life and they want to walk away, or they felt that they were utilized, or they felt that they were expendable, and they feel a certain way about it, man. And so it's their way of taking the higher road to only look after themselves, man. You know what I mean? Some people get that they become vindictive. You know what I'm saying? That's human nature. If you feel you were screwed over, you were used, you were played out of pocket, man, there's going to be people who are going to take certain types of actions, man. And so what's going to happen here, man, I mean, we're just talking it, man, talking right here. I think they're going to start, there's going to be people who are going to be investigated every day, interviews, talked. There's going to be a lot of pressure. You know, they're going to know a lot more stuff than what the media is leading on to. And you're going to start to have certain people starting to cooperate. And the first sign of people cooperating is you're going to see them moved out of wherever they're being housed.
With no eye contact to the homies when they're leaving either. They're gonna have their property cuffed behind their back, like,
Well, you got to remember though too.
That's
The
when you
first,
know you're like,
the,
uh-oh,
the what
man
was it?
down.
The first operation, right? Black Widow. Who ended up cooperating? Was it Big Rock? Was one that cooperated? Um, Roach and them. You know what I'm saying? All of them started to cooperate, right? So there was
Roach was
no,
cooperating on me when I was on the streets,
yeah. So there was. What
trying
I'm
to get me
saying,
busted.
what I'm saying is that out of all those high-ranking captains and generals, I think there was only one that really cooperated in the beginning, and I guess Boxer from Selma and Weddle did later on down the line.
Do you know, did you hear any rumors or do you know why Boxer from Selma took off?
Well, this is what I heard, and man, I hate to talk on things I don't know, but this is what was told to me back then is that he was one of the ones that was trying to, you know, properly use the Constitution in its context, and that he got backlash for that when he was trying to assert himself in authority position. And then I also heard rumors that maybe he didn't want that position or he didn't want the responsibility. But if you look at the whole situation, after Operation Black Widow, he was shortly after is when he decided to cooperate. So someone told him that he got some backlash when he tried to assert himself, which is what he was supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he was one of the 3 remaining captains up there, him and Weddle.
Yeah.
But Cornell got in the mix too, because Cornell was sending directives out there too at the same time, man. You know what I mean? I know Cornell was the one that kind of was, which was kind of ironic, was one of the ones that was causing a rift with Carlitos over there in Corcoran Shoe at that time, which is kind of funny. You know what I mean, he wasn't supposed to have any type of, he was already demoted with restrictions of not holding any position, but somehow he bypassed all that. You know what I mean? But I can't be for certain, man. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about the dude, though. That's what's kind of ironic about it.
I liked him. You know, I spent some time with him in the Bay. I thought he was all right. Real soft spoken, real intelligent, real chill, real down to earth. That's why I was curious if you had heard something factual, you know.
Treacherous dude, though.
Either one of those theories, I mean, they make complete sense. You know what I'm saying? You know, the thing with when new governments take over, basically, you know, there's going to be discrepancies. And I think that may be why they went to time and grade, because, you know, you got some guy that's been in the O for 33 years of loyal service, who's a Cat 3. And then you got some dude who's been down, say, 16 and he made Cat 3. You know what I mean? The dude with 33 years is going to feel some type of way when this guy jumps into a, you know, a main leadership position above him. So going time and grade, that might alleviate some of that. You know, that's my you know, thought as far as the change. But yeah, there's no telling, bro. There's no telling why some people do what they do. Like, I never understood when you're doing all day why you would flip. I mean, you don't necessarily got to flip if you want to get away. You just go to the shower and be like, I'm scared. You know what I'm saying? You don't got to flip, because there's nothing they could give you to make it worth it. You know, if you're doing life, what can they give you? Send you to SNY. You could go to SNY without telling. I mean, without testifying, at least, you know?
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about 2 things right now. Let's talk about 2 things. What's going to happen to these state guys when they hit the feds, and what's going to happen to the organization as well as the Norteño movement now that all these leadership have been taken. You know, I'm gonna tap in as far as first on the state leadership. They're going to go through trial. It's going to take about 4 years, 5 years tops before they go to trial. I think they're going to be found guilty, probably. You know, I mean, the feds don't play. I mean, unless they take deals. But in order for them to reveal who the witnesses are, they have to go to the box. They can assume all day, but they won't have no verified proof unless they get copies of the sealed documents like they did last time during Operation Black Widow. I don't know how that happened, but they did. They got all the CDs of all the information: who, what, where, when, why. But you know, there's a system in the feds what people don't realize, and we broke it down about how the Norteños and NF separated themselves from being on the yards with Sureños. As soon as the BOP, what does the BOP stand for again?
Bureau of Prisons,
which is the federal prison system. As soon as they get any type of information that there's a power struggle, that there's a conflict, that you're not compatible, they just have to get a whiff of it. They separate you. That's the sole reason why the Norteños have yards where there's no Sureños on the yard. They will not put any Norteño on a Sureño yard, and they will not put any Sureño on a Norteño yard in the feds. Why? Because they kicked it off. Skip, Happy, Spider, all these dudes, when they hit the main lines, we already discussed it. They kicked it off everywhere. You know what I mean? Because there was a whole system before that where I've talked to people, and so the MA had restrictions that you Norteños could walk the yard. Well, they had an agreement with administration allegedly, or this was the understanding they had. Okay, we don't want more than 30 Norteños on the yard. They could walk and they could program. No issues. As soon as Operation Black Widow men hit the yards, now you got some high power NF individuals. So they put those conditions that they wanted these guys. When it ended up happening was there was a backlash effect over it. We did a whole spiel on this to where they went to war. They all got separated. And so now the NF and Norteños can only be on yards with those they are compatible with. Now, the feds already know what's going on with the state and fed right now. They're 100% aware of this. So the only thing I can see happening is two things. Either one, they're going to separate everybody that's involved in this indictment that's loyal to the state. They're going to have two different NFs in the feds, right? That's the only alternative, because they know if they put Chuco, DC, or any of those guys, Corneo out there, the same thing that happened to Tibbs, who was a loyal member for years, man, and just spoke up. Can you imagine what's going to happen to these dudes if they hit the yard? They're going to get chopped up. So they're going to separate them. How much power are they going to yield? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to put them in the same yards unless they're able to mend the fences now, right? Which I highly doubt it. You could have a few people who get caught up in this indictment who may try to get in the ear of some of the guys in the feds for safe passage. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought that these guys were going to be housed maybe in Santa Rita, and we know that Mateo and Chente are there. Apparently, these guys are not. So I was figuring anybody that wants to get in good graces with the feds would maybe reach out to Mateo while they're in Santa Rita, because we know where Mateo's loyalties are. We know where Chente's loyalties are, right? But Santa Rita, as we know, has been ran by the state for so long as well. But these guys are being housed in the state, so there's nobody for these guys to reach out to. A lot of these guys are new recruits, and they've been recruited by this state leadership, so they're going to be loyal to those in the state. Now, if you notice from this indictment, the ones that were impacted were people from Salinas and San Jose, not all these other areas. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people from San Jose. Who's from San Jose that has a stronghold in San Jose? Chuco. So it seems like a lot of, I've heard rumblings out there in the streets that certain hoods are loyal to the state, certain hoods are loyal to the feds. Just rumors, but it's coming from valid people, from valid source of information.
It makes sense.
I don't,
yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, eventually, either they're going to have to mend their differences. You know what I'm saying? But we said this all along. Eventually, if you live that life, the way the feds are playing nowadays, you're going to get indicted. Now, we could have a same situation that happened with Gangster. See, Gangster's on this indictment too, Salvador Castro. But it would kind of be ridiculous for this to occur. Why are you going to spend all this money to indict all these people and bring them in on charges just to throw them back out there to the state?
Right.
You know what I mean? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And maybe that's why they put Gangster back out there, because Gangster just got sentenced about 4 or 5 months ago. You know what I mean? On a whole separate RICO case from 2019. Took 19 years or whatever it was, and then didn't get excommunicated to the feds. He stayed in the state. So that's what we got to see is what is the feds going to do with the sentencing? Are they going to take them and send them to the feds, or are they going to send them right back out to the state?
That might be a bargaining chip for some of them individuals too. You know, hey, I'll be cool if you send me to the state, but then it doesn't matter what you do, because if you cooperate, you're all bad in the state anyway.
These guys been cooperating, though, bro. Let's keep it real. These dudes have been communicating with IGI and SSU. Some of these guys, bro.
Yeah.
In some form or fashion, they've already overstepped the boundaries of what we could do back then and what they are doing now. The feds guys ain't doing it. These guys have been talking to certain people. You know what I mean? IGI meeting up in the office and trying to work out interactions with the correctional officers to have these safe yards, to not have issues out there, to have, you know what I mean, that comment. They're talking to correctional officers like they would be if they were talking to an MA member now. You know what I'm saying? Whereas before, that would be a prime number one enemy. So they already have those communications going on. They've been having them. You know what I'm saying? So now we just got to see what's going to happen now with the leftovers, the stragglers that are left over that haven't got hemmed up.
You know what's going to happen is anybody who wasn't part of the main COC is going to be given an opportunity by the gentlemen in the feds to join the right cause, as they would probably put it, be on the right side of the fence. The only ones that are gonna, there's been too much stuff said between, the big guys on both sides that I don't know if it could ever be mended. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
I think that's they've basically made a termination of all ties. They've severed them. But all the low level players and all the yes sirs, that just have to follow directions based on where they're at, I think they'll be given an opportunity to choose.
Or this is where we get into a little bit of perspectives. You got to go with what your Constitution says. Whatever the Constitution states, if you're a Guerrero, if you're a made member, you got to go with what the law says first and foremost. You may be rejecting both those sides. You may be rejecting all those that are indicted, and may rejecting the feds. They may just say, hey, look, we're taking the reins. We're going to go in a different direction. You know what I mean? I mean, that could possibly happen. It's happened before. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got two-time losers in this situation. I mean, if you're getting federally indicted, what good are you to me now? What good are you to the state now? Why are we going to take directives from you? You guys are already fucking hot. You guys did it wrong. We're going to try to do this right. And the same cycle is going to happen again. They're going to start, you know what I mean? Recruiting more people. They're going to revise, make some revisals and stuff to the, you know what I mean? They always make revisals. That's what people don't realize.
Hey, think about this. Hey, the people who are new, not like from my era or older, they might be under a whole different set of revisions of the Constitution than I even know how to speak on, because they could have changed some things. Because it seems like, one side of this is just making rules as they go, kind of to fit what they think is appropriate. So I might be talking out my ass because there could be some major changes that I don't know, that they just decided, hey, we're going to implement this from now on. This is the new rule. And whereas it might shock me based on the original Constitution, because I've seen them all up until, the state Fed flip. I don't know what they got written in them things now, but I've seen all the original documentation. I know them front and back. You
know damn well you got both sides. You got the New Flowers and the Northern Riders that are looking like this from at the visits, going, "We told you so. We told you so." You know what I mean? It's crazy right now, man. I just found out some other information, interesting information too. Right? Was those that jumped for Mateo when Mateo got hit. Okay, a lot of them they tried to put him out there on Salinas Valley. I think Sea Yard for a minute with the Bulldogs and the New Flowers. I guess that didn't work out. They're now, a lot of those dudes are at CMC East. Now you hear rumors about CMC East having an established NF regiment, Norteños or whatnot, right? Have you heard that? I've done the research. That's a non-designated yard. We have GP, SNY, and you have non-designated yard. CMC East is a non-designated yard. So it houses everything there now. So I kind of
what would we call that? That would be basically a 50-50, right?
That would basically be a 50-50 yard in a sense, man. You know what I'm saying? But I actually looked up the prisons because people were talking about that they had CMC East now and all that. It's non-designated yards. Basically, you know what I mean? You're programming with the same thing that you say you won't program with. I've always said this, man, and it's not holding true because there's a lot of homeboys getting caught up. Since the changes in the 90s, you have more Norteños involved in NF business, assisting the NF, associating with the NF, holding positions for NF members out there in the streets, running regiments, all that. I mean, it wouldn't be uncommon for a Northerner to be the regiment commander, even though technically the RC position is supposed to be for a C. You know what I mean? An established regiment is only when a Carnal is present in the prison system, and it has to be delegated to the GOP. That's when you have an RC. You can have it on an interim basis, as you know. I know that part from reading the Constitution, but you do have those out there in the streets that are running regiments out there in the streets that are just Northerners nowadays. And therefore they're being involved in NF business. So that's the big problem I have, is that you got a lot of people who are blinded, who, are just following orders, just following directives, and they're just trying to do their part. They think that they're contributing to the cause. They're defending their household. They're doing all the things that they're taught, responsible obedience, but they're not a member. Therefore, they're getting caught up in the mix between two growing factions. It's like, okay, what do you do? I mean, it would be a hard time when I mean active Norteño, I'm not talking about a homeboy who's in good standings. I mean someone who's actively in the mix that pushes those prison politics and is a believer in the cause, the struggle. it'd be a hard time for a real active person to be involved to this day, man. I've always said, man, like, you know, the Norteños should almost pull away from the NF, still look at them as their elders and forefathers, right? Respect them in that aspect, right? But not fall under their dictation. You know what I'm saying? Because they get caught up in their politics when therefore they have none of their own politics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it should go back to how it was in the 90s to where, okay, you had your Norteños out there in the yard and then you had the NF and it was NF business. You didn't involve yourself in it unless you were an NF member or if you were a strong NF sympathizer, then you would be involved.
Like a bro. Yeah.
Yeah. And then very few bros. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't just let any bro come out to function. You had to,
that's the top 10, 15%. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, because too many homeboys are getting caught up. I talk to active homeboys, and you know what they say over and over again? They say, man, I don't want to function with no regiment. I don't want to assist because the dude I'm reporting to, he may be indicted in 5 years, and he's probably going to be no good in 5 years because I'm just a regular end. I don't want to be involved in this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? But I mean, even during Operation Black Widow, when the 5-3 filter came out, which was May 2003, it came from the Bay. And that's where I seen the power struggle going on. They're talking about when the dust settles, you know, they were even sending Norteños and Northerners telling them that when they were putting certain seas on freeze, that if these seas refused, that you had the green light and authority to take flight if they raised any suspicion. I'm like, what the fuck? This is going to get someone crossed up, man, because once a sea clears its standings, man, it's going to fall back upon that individual, man. So the new changes of everything, man. I mean, like I said, I mean, it's like the politics we have today in this country. You know what I'm saying? Both sides are corrupt. You got to pick your poison. What you value more. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we're left with them. It's the same thing that's happening with these factions is you have both sides. You can't reject it. My whole thing would be, what if these young homeboys who just want to do their time program, establish for the gente and push the real Norteño cause, which is for the betterment of the people, what if they reject both these parties and say, look, we're on our own. We'll assist you when the time comes, but we don't want to be involved in your politics.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could happen, bro. It's real hard to predict, because a lot of things happen, with the Black Widow indictments, because that Black Widow was the most major in history. I mean, there's been some real messed up indictments, but the ramifications within the group as a whole because of Black Widow, in my opinion, make it the most significant in history. And this is going to be another one that's right there, man. This is a make or break thing for the state, essentially, because the feds aren't going nowhere because there's nowhere else for them to go. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. There's not state feds and then international jail. They're at the top. They're not going nowhere. The worst they could do to them is put them in the hole. And they're not going to put the leaders.
These people are selfish, though, bro. Think about it. They're selfish, bro. They know, man. I was thinking this the whole time during Operation Black Widow, man. Out there when they were in Santa Rita and Oakland, I was never going to say it out loud though because I already know what would happen. I'm like, these dudes are so selfish. The directives that they're giving for us, the things to do, they don't care if we get caught up. Just as long as we're bringing money, they don't give a damn about us. You know what I mean? And as soon as we get hemmed up, man, we ain't getting no money put on our books. We're not getting bailed out. None of that shit was happening, man.
And you can't even really, like, if with the end of hostilities, especially, you can't even be on none of those yards where there's, big homies and just do your time like a Northerner. You're going to have to listen or they're going to whack you straight up.
Well, okay, that's another thing too. We're going to discuss the aftermath of that. Does the end all hostilities still stay in play? I say it does. I think it's not going to change.
I don't either. They're too used to it. It's too lucrative. And it actually is beneficial, straight up. I mean, a lot of people won't like me saying that, but in all honesty, for the goals of the group to progress and make money, in that lifestyle, that's the best place for them to be, is on the main line. Yeah. You go to them shoes, you lose the phones, you lose the communication, you lose all this and that. And, it doesn't even have to be about peace. It just has to be about irrelevance. Like, man, hell with them dudes, we'll do our thing. Man, the organization was in a bad place when everybody was in the shoe. Yeah, there was money being made and everything, but times are different. There's phones and visitation, and it's just so much better to wiggle, Hey, we had a little technical difficulty, YouTube, man, so we apologize, but go ahead, Flacco.
So I wanted to pose this question to you. You mentioned phones. You mentioned all this stuff that they've been that are lucrative. How come I know correctional officers added on to this list, this indictment?
It might happen. I mean,
It
they
might
don't
happen.
they don't want to go after their own, really, you know, because it's a bad reflection on a state agency, of course. So they're only going to do that as a last ditch effort. You know, they got to catch them in the act. They don't want to just start investigating people because they'd rather investigate known criminals. But there should be. I mean, of course, you know,
Because
phones can get in other ways. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, you know, a majority of the contraband is coming through from staff. You know, you got little access. You're not keystering a phone in the visiting room, bro, unless you got a different kind of back door than I have. I'm not keystering no phone, straight up.
Yeah.
You know, come on, man. Look at that. That's not going nowhere near my opening. You know what I'm saying? It's not, dude. You know, put me on the B&L, but I'm not putting that in me. You know, so phones are coming in differently. You can score other things through visitation. Obviously, it's been being done for 100 years. But, you know, these bigger items are coming in through staff. I mean, they say Castro got busted with 8 phones when they hit his cell. I mean, come on, man.
And he was in the hole?
I don't know where they pulled him from, but he had 8 phones.
That's crazy, bro.
You know, and hopefully they're all using Signal or Wicker or something, or they got a whole brand new trove of information. You know?
Oh, they've already broke those codes anyways, bro. Them feds have warrants and all that.
You can't break them. There's no start and no end. It's in the clouds. I mean, they might have access if somebody gave them like a password and they were able to duplicate, you know, like clone something and do it. But like as far as just retrieving the message, it's not retrievable. I understand how the technology works on it, and it can't be retrieved. You know what I mean? It's not like other things where, you know, the message originates here and it goes through here and then it ends here. It slides through encrypted, goes through as a different kind of thing and comes out a different kind of way. It's hard to explain for the common person to understand it, but
bro,
Signal and Wicker.
I think the feds can break anything, bro. Come on, we're talking with people who break cells to terrorist groups, bro.
They say, from what I gather, they can't, but you could be right. Yeah. If they could break all the terrorist shit, a lot of this terrorist shit wouldn't happen, or either that or they're allowing it.
That's true,
you know what I mean? They're going to allow a certain amount of shit to go through to build a case anyway.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
You know? But if they were able to break all this stuff, man, this indictment would be 1,500 counts instead of 7. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I wish we had access to the discovery file, man.
Oh, we will. It's just a matter of time. It'll be out soon. It'll be out soon.
Discovery file is going to be interesting. You know what I'm saying?
I want to see how many people are left going to trial.
Not many. Watch.
3 or 4, maybe. Oh shit. All right, YouTube, man. That was just me and Flacco's little personal perspectives, and hey, this is only perspectives. It's a lot of guesswork, but the guesswork is based on experience, you know, with these indictments and with the group as a whole, with a lot of years, bro, and a lot of wisdom that comes with age and understanding, you know. So don't take nothing we said to the bank, man, but don't be surprised either. You know what I'm saying? These are weird times. Times change, and times get a little bit more watered down every generation.
You know, if you told us 20 years ago that you would have a movement called the Northern Riders, I wouldn't have believed you.
Me neither.
You know what I'm saying? So you never know what this future is gonna bring. Period.
But you don't got to worry about none of this if you don't join a gang.
Don't do nothing illegal.
And then if you talk about stuff on the phone, they won't be listening, so you won't get a conspiracy because you're not a gang member. Right on YouTube, man. It's your boy Rojo, Big Flacco in the house, man, and we'll be back at you again. Mas pronto.